So, Sina, just let me know if it's already recording in
Yes.
your screen. Okay. Okay, Sina, go to you for introduction. Thanks.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, everybody. All the listener of the Nest Korosi podcast. Okay, today my name is Sina, and then also my co-host, which is
Richard
Mr.
Basari.
Richard Basari. Oke, apa kabar? Semoga semuanya sehat selalu. So today we are going to have another podcast session again, and then this will be a quite interesting topic for today. So in the background, so we are going to discuss about the integrity operating window, or we usually mention it as a IOW. This is a set of a limit that used to determine the different variable that could affect the integrity and reliability of the process unit. And then to put in simple way, the IOW are the limit under which a set of parameter can operate safely, and working outside the IOW may cause otherwise preventable damage or failure. So we have the reference API 584 integrity operating window. It is a standard. Uh, is it standard or recommended practice? I think yeah. This is like the recommended practice from the American Petroleum Institute, which cover IOW, and I think they just issued a new revision by December in 2021. The standard deals with the parameter that should it be established and the data required in order to set up a proper IOW plan. So this document also talks about the different type of IOW used in the process unit. It covers the risk ranking, documenting, implementing, review, changing, and updating IOW. So I think in Pak Richard company, IOW is already implemented. As one example is in the corrosion control matrix, or we usually mention as CCM, which is similar to IOW. It provides like a guideline to determine the temperature, pressure, and corrosion elements such as CO2, H2S, and oxygen, and also the chloride. In the system, it could be like in the steam system or the acid gas refillable unit, or the on the onshore receiving facility, produced water, and other area. So with uh, us today, we have a guest which is from far, far away. This is my boss, Human Taktesian. No, you're still my boss. Human Taktesian. He has a lot of title in here, Master of Science, and then also Chartered Engineer. I am M3, and then his current role is a Principal Corrosion Engineer in the Oceanering Asset Integrity in Aberdeen, UK. So as I remember, Human is like already have quite extensive experience in many region, in many continent, from the I think from the UAE also you already Human and then also in the Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Human helping us. So yeah, to be honest, Human is like a very high contribution to sharing knowledge with our engineer here in Indonesia. So without further ado, maybe we can start the first question. Pak Richard, do you want to ask to Human?
Yeah. So welcome, Human. Welcome to Korosi Indonesian podcast. Please introduce more about yourself, other than your name and your experience that already mentioned in the earlier. Maybe what organization you involves, how or what bring you in this corrosion and integrity um, world and become your work, and also maybe some of outside your work, maybe what's your hobby or things to do outside work. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much. And a good evening, probably there. Uh, yeah, my name is Human, and first of all, let me thank you for this invitation, for very very nice work that you are doing, guys, with doing this podcast, Korosi, Indonesia. Uh, this is a type of work that we don't see a lot. We see a lot of YouTubers, Instagrammers, and stuff like this. They are doing uh, a lot of non-technical relevant stuff, but we don't see a lot of these kind of knowledge sharing at the moment in the industry. And that's a very good initiative that you guys have started. I think you already have done this for a year or so when I heard first. Uh, so yeah, big thanks for that, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this experience. Uh, so yeah, my background, I'm a material and metallurgical engineer. My bachelor was material science and engineering. Uh, how many years ago? Many years ago. 25 years ago. Yeah, and I had the Master of Science right after that in material selection. Uh, s- I started working in the EPC contractor in oil and gas industry in 2001 uh, with a company who was in charge of the shipbuilding and offshore assets construction in Persian Gulf. So I was with them for 3 or 4 years as a material and welding inspector. So working as an inspector at site, but mainly on the construction side of it. Uh, and then I joined Bureau Veritas, who is a third party, very well.
Yeah.
Uh, in Iran, I haven't mentioned that my background, I'm from Iran. So for until I think it was 2008, I was in charge of that. I was still an inspector, material welding, corrosion inspector, uh, in charge of a few projects and just traveling all the time to offshore, so stuff like this. So in 2008, I moved to the technical center of Bureau Veritas in Abu Dhabi. Stayed for 5 years there, and as a material and corrosion engineer. So we were in charge of the design review, design verification, and also again on-site inspection and verification of the assets during the construction and during the operation. Uh, I spent a year in that period in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, setting up a new branch of the company, a technical center for Southeast Asia in Kuala Lumpur. Was involved in Petronas and a couple of other local operators, doing RBI, integrity reviews, fitness for service, life extension, and stuff like this. And then I moved to Aberdeen in 2014. That was the time that I started my second master degree at the University of Manchester, which was actually very good. That was my transition from pure construction and material world to corrosion. Uh, so I would say from 2014, I've been mainly focused on corrosion and corrosion risk assessments, RBI, and stuff like this here in Aberdeen. So we have been working with BP, Total, mainly uh, in North Sea, in Egypt, in Indonesia, and whereas Azerbaijan, different integrity reviews and RBI assessments. Uh, and at the moment, I'm working with Total Energies on a couple of assets in UK and Denmark, reviewing again the integrity and RBI assessment. And one of the main things that we were doing last year for the first time in Total Energy was developing integrity operating window, as is the topic for today, and implementing them in their system, not only preparing a register, but also implementing in the CPMS system. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And at the moment, we're asking about my activity. So don't have that much time for that, but I make myself busy a little bit more than usual, normal people. I've started a master degree, the third one, unfortunately, in data science, which
Oh,
Oh,
is
okay.
yes,
Nice.
which is very, very relevant to the again to our topic today.
Yeah.
And I believe that's like a future of the industry,
Yeah.
with a lot of data everywhere that we need to identify, process, analyze, and get the better use of them. Uh, I'm part of in ICOR, Institute of Corrosion.
mhm.
You probably know like NACE and the other institutes is a professional institute, uh, which is mainly in charge of the corrosion. It's based in the UK, but we have a lot of members from overseas as well. So I'm I've been with them for last 7-8 years. Uh, this year I am the chairman of the committee, Aberdeen committee, and probably you have seen me on some of our monthly events. We have
Mhm.
monthly webinars every month since from September up to May. This is our annual program. Uh, and I'm the fellow member of ICOR. At the moment, we are running a program for the first time in Aberdeen, which is young engineer program.
Mhm.
We just started it last week with 25 young engineers selected. They're kind of based in Aberdeen or around Aberdeen because they have to attend our courses every week, every month in Aberdeen. So hopefully in future we'll have an international one so people can join from other countries. But this is the fourth one that we are doing and the first time in Aberdeen. It's very, very good one. And that's like our purpose to share the knowledge from the experienced level people, not myself, but very experienced, like their technical authorities or uh, corrosion or material leads who are actually retired or about to be retired. So they are doing lectures every month, mentoring the people, and at the end we will have a competition in November with a case study that they have to present in front of a panel of judges. And the award is to send them to States for ACE conference in next year. So yeah, we are doing that, and hopefully we'll have future programs worldwide.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah. That's thank you, man. That's really good. Yeah, I remember when I was in North Sea in Aberdeen office working for BP. I also attend some of the ICOR
Oh
session in
yeah,
the Palm Hotel. Is that, if I'm not
Concord
mistaken?
Total. Yeah.
Yes, and I met Human a couple of times. And I also really like how the academic and industry in UK and also with the government is really linked together, Pasina. This is something that, in Indonesia, we hope that it's going to be strong because with the good partnership between the academic and industry, we can make our engineering, science, and everything become more and more relevant. With eventually, we'll help our country to become more advanced in technology. Okay, over to you, Pasina.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, man. Very good. I don't know that you are taking another master degree. That's very good. It's
It's very
inspiring
recent, so
to do that
many
also.
people they don't know it's the first time it's broadcasted to the world.
Okay. Now we're going to back to our main topic for today. So, yeah, as I mentioned in the introduction, that the IOW is related with the process and everything. So, the basically this is not the standalone system, which is the IOW also related with the other aspects such as risk-based inspection or risk-based assessment. So would you share your experience during the development of the IOW? What will be the sequence or flow process for during the IOW development, Oman?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and you mentioned a very valid point about uh, the connection between the risk-based inspection or risk-based assessment uh, and the IOW developments. Because one of the main thing is that, one of the main difference between IW and corrosion control metrics is that there is an aspect of risk in IOW which we don't have in corrosion control metrics. In previously, when we were preparing KPIs or uh, corrosion control metrics, that we couldn't assign a risk level to them. Maybe we would, but it was not a recommendation or a requirement to have a risk associated to each task and each level of IW. But this is very much now a major part of IW, the risk. And for doing that, you have to complete a risk assessment first. So the main thing for me, or the starting point, is the company policy commitment and the strategy to have an IOW in place, which we see now in the industry that most of the companies they have recognized this. It's a very new kind of requirement or term because API just is in the second version, as Hasina mentioned. It's like the second version just released December 2021. So, and the previous version was around for the last couple of years. So I know a lot of people that are still struggling to understand what IOW is, and is it very important? Not, is it like something nice to have, or uh, they don't still see that the benefit of that, and they cannot still distinguish between that and the old CCM system or KPI systems. I would say in the refineries or chemical plants, they use IOW quite extensively, and maybe one of the first industries that they started with that when the first version of API came was like refineries, because simply because they have a lot of variables to control. And even before the term IOW uh, was introduced, they had very extensive systems. They just couldn't operate without controlling all of them. Uh, so the in upstreams and midstream system I would say it's quite new, and companies they just started applying that, but it's a good thing that we are transiting to that stage now. Uh, for me, IOW should the process of identification and implementation of that should be in parallel with your risk-based assessment. So the first thing that you do in your RBI is identifying and screening your damage mechanisms. And when you do that, then in parallel, you can identify what parameters are important. So when you're doing, you identify that, for example, chloride stress corrosion cracking is a credible damage mechanism for a part of your asset. Then at the same time, to do the risk assessment to identify the damage factor or to identify the probability of failure due to that damage, you have to analyze your parameters, which is your temperature, your chloride level, your pH, and so on. So it's a good practice that when you're doing that, take a note of these parameters, and when you're doing your probability assessment, understand that what level is critical, what level is standard, and what level is safe to operate. Uh, so this will be a good exercise, because at the same time that you're identifying that, you can review that with a peer review team and just establish in your system. Uh, so yeah, so the next step will be registering all of these parameters plus their limits, and then starting data gathering. The data gathering in this case will be where do we have locations or points of measurement. Uh, like if you are talking about chloride, how do you want to measure that in the system? Can we measure it at all? Uh, if not, and if we are still in the earliest stage of design, or if we can have the opportunity to add a measuring point, can we add it with like a sampling point, or is there a transmitter somewhere that in the plant that is actually measuring the parameter for other purposes, sometimes for the quality of your product, for example, or the quality or the composition of uh, the fluid that you're receiving at site, between like different platforms. Sometimes you have like a meter and the analyzer transmitter analyzing the gas or the condensate, which is sent to another platform, and at the other side also you have analyzers for that. So you need to do a very thorough uh, review of your documentation, drawings, list of the instrumentation, to understand where these are located, because uh, a part of the IOW parameters is uh, monitored by analyzers. Uh, Things like composition, gas composition, for example, temperature, pressure, flows, and so on. So that will be the next stage. And also on top of the analyzers, the second half of the IOWs should be measured or monitored by sampling manually. So things like bacteria content in this produced water, for example, that only can be done by manual sampling, or by taking coupons and uh, uh, checking the surface of the coupon for sessile bacteria, for example. So that will be another thing, and it's a little bit more challenging than the analyzers, because for the analyzers you always have a in situ data or constant data online or in your SCADA system. But for sampling, you have to have a certain frequency of taking samples, analyzing them, sending to lab, making sure the product chemist dashboard is always up to date, and all of the reports. So it's a little bit more complicated, but needs to be done because a lot of valuable data are also sitting there in those Excel sheets or spreadsheets, not in a proper system.
True, very true.
Yeah. And the timing, again, the last thing normally you need to do is to assign actions. Okay, so if something is, if a parameter is passing a limit, if an IOW is breaching the limit, uh, what are the action? Who is responsible to take action? Who is reporting? Who is taking action? Who is raising alerts, alarms? Especially if, again, if it is not an analyzer. If it is an analyzer, that there will be some kind of alert alarm system in the control room that you will get it. But what about the samplings? What the manual sampling? Shall you wait until your annual review, uh, or do you need to uh, raise an alarm earlier for the management to take actions? Uh, so yeah, so that's kind of like a simple process from A to Z. What normally you need to do to identify and control them.
Yep. Well, thank you, Human, for very comprehensive, if I can say, questions. Maybe we just close this podcast because it's already complete.
No, no, I
Okay.
wouldn't say that.
Okay, so we go to next question. So the integrity operating window document product is not, yeah, well, although it's being produced by the integrity team within the company, but that's not solely a product of integrity team. So in your experience, who should be primary team or people other than integrity team that should working to develop this IOW, and why? Thank you.
Yeah, again, another good question. I would say everyone should be kind of involved in that. But don't forget that we are again talking about integrity operating window. We are not talking about all the parameters, because if you go through the uh, uh, control system of a company, you see that like there are thousands of transmitters, analyzer sending uh, different data, uh, mostly for the uh, purpose of the product control, or the safety of the system, uh, and so on. But not all of these are integrity related. At the moment, maybe there are very, very important and data available, but they are for other purposes. And it's not our immediate concern related to integrity of the asset. Uh, for the integrity of asset, we first of all we have to identify which of these data are relevant to the integrity only, and then uh, based on that, people who will be involved will be mainly integrity related people. You might need some support from your process engineer, mechanical engineer, uh, inspection team, maintenance, and so on. But mainly, I would say the owner of this system is your integrity team. RBI engineer, as we mentioned, they have to be actively involved during each review of RBI. If there is a new parameters or change in the limits of a parameter, they have to feed it back to the system. Um, so it will be more and more accurate and relevant as they do the reviews. The corrosion engineer, obviously, uh, for all the corrosion related parameters or damage mechanism, they have to be involved in reviewing uh, again the credibility of the damage, uh, identification of the important parameters, and also to identify which parameter is more critical than the other ones. We don't want to end up with like 200 different IOW parameters and then control all of them with the same effort. Some of these need to be prioritized to be done more frequently because they simply have more effect or impact on your integrity of your system if they breach. Some of them are not really, some of them are for information of the corrosion engineer. They just want those data for the trending purposes. So they should be just like as a side data for the corrosion engineer's purpose only. But some of them which are critical or standard high, they have to be identified. These should be identified by corrosion engineer and aligned with the risk assessment done by RBI engineer. But then the actions will be for everyone basically involved. The process engineer, the control engineers, the inspection engineer, product chemist, lab to take samples and report. And one of the most things which is like very, very critical will be the management in the different levels. Just to commit, make sure that this is the message is sent to everyone in the company that this is important. Like with safety, when we talk about safety, the management has the commitment with safety, and then they keep telling about that in all the town halls, all the announcements, how important is safety or quality. So again, quality is sometimes, you see that management is considered a part of the policy and the mission and the vision and everything. But do we see IOW, do we see integrity as taking as serious as the other two? Because they are like part of one loop, safety, quality, and integrity. So that should also be taken very seriously. So as I said, everyone, but some people are much more involved.
Okay. So okay. Thank you, Human.
No problem.
Yeah, very, very good. Yeah, I think the message is clear, especially for us who is not in the in the decision making position. So yeah, I would like to continue to the next question. It is about these non-time dependent damage mechanism. For example, like the cracking, like the chloride and sulfide cracking. This will be challenging in the developing of integrated operating window. Would like to know your advice. What will be the best approach to develop IOW for this kind of damage mechanism?
Yeah. Now again, a great question. So I would say IOW for me is mainly made for these kind of damage mechanisms because this is the only way that you can control them. For the aged related damage mechanism like CO2 corrosion or erosion, you have other means of control like inspection. So if you have a general metal loss or localized metal loss, even for MIC, uh, you have means of inspection like UT. You'll do radiography based on your RBI advice and the technique that you need to use and the frequency of inspection. So you get some level of confidence with your inspection. It could be for some localized damage mechanism, not very high confidence, but still you get some data. But for cracking, you don't have very reliable inspection technique, and they just happen overnight. Like uh, fatigue related, uh, for chloride stress corrosion cracking, uh, for kind of the damage mechanism related to offset condition like sand excursion, for uh, tube ruptures due to the high temperature service. So, so again, all of these cannot be captured with your inspection. Uh, you could get some alarms with uh, uh, with the previous inspection and see, okay, there has been like deformation of tubes, which means like high temperature. So I need to be more careful about this. But I would say the main way of controlling and monitoring this is IOW. You control your chloride, so you get some level of confidence with chloride and temperature and pH about your chloride stress corrosion cracking. You monitor your temperature in different levels, and then you get some level of confidence with the high temperature cracking. And you have like sand monitoring system. You can make sure that uh, you capture if there is any sand excursion or um, any chance of the sand erosion in the system. So yeah, so it's challenging. Again, we will not get 100% confidence about that, but it's a data that is there, and you can use that. And just that's again for the corrosion engineer, a good corrosion engineer uh, to associate all of these data with the chance of a damage, corrosion mechanism to happen. I hope I have answered the question.
Yes,
Haven't
Oman.
missed anything. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Maybe the next question. So in case we have a breach of integrity operating window when we are in the operation and its impact to our production or productivity, what will the best way to approach or to solve this matter? Are we doing the tighter inspection regime because we know that our facility possess increase of risk of process safety, or we wait for some time to collect more integrity operating window parameters, and so we have more targeted inspection regime. Where should we do the inspection or determine our pipe or vessel integrity, because like more data you can be like more specific in targeting where we should put the effort of the inspection.
Yeah, that's right. So I think the first part of question was about the impact on the productivity only, and the second part of question is about how do we manage inspection and the IOW together. Yeah. So the productivity. So yeah. So that's again, it will go back to the again, company policy that some companies they consider safety and environmental impacts very seriously, and uh, the productivity is just a side outside to be controlled. Uh, but some companies they consider like all financial consequences, product loss, and all of these seriously for the as a major consequence if they happen. Uh, so if I think one of the good practices to do that is to make sure that you separate your process related and utility repair related IOWs, because the process related IOWs they normally have major safety and environmental impacts. Your hydrocarbon release, I mean, so they already have kind of high focus on them uh, in RBI and also in IOWs, because you always are concerned about safety, and you make sure you capture them. But the product loss sometimes is coming from not controlling properly your utilities, like the boiler system. Again, there are a lot of parameters related to the hot water boiler steam system, uh, that they sometimes they don't have that much of safety and environmental impact, but they have major product impact. Utility is your the backbone for your plan to work. Uh, so the, or maybe like uh, you know, the utility water. So there is no safety or environmental impact for utility water, but without that you cannot operate. These need to be considered in separate sets of IOWs, uh, and take seriously, if you have that focus on your product loss and the impact on the product. And in terms of inspection planning, uh, I would say the IOW will not take the place of inspection. They are just two different things. Uh, it will just give you an additional level of confidence about management of the integrity. So the RBI uh, requirements for the inspection, they remain the same. Uh, but as you said, if we are doing, if you are controlling your IOW, and we have enough level of confidence after few years, and you know that you understand your system, because in the earliest stage of the operation, you normally have some levels of uncertainties about what's going to happen in this vessel. Um, I don't like, is there any uh, like any kind of uh, corrosive elements in the system that we haven't considered in the design that we need to know about. So maybe after 4 or 5 years, after one level of one shutdowns that you had done, and you get some level of confidence in uh, for some of your vessels. So then you have your IOW in parallel, and then in your next review of RBA you decide, okay, we didn't see any problem when we opened this vessel or we inspected this vessel, NII or intrusive, uh, and we know that we are checking IOWs, so we probably don't want to inspect that as early as the previous inspection. So uh, let's keep an eye on our IOW, and then see if it is behaving well or not. If not, then we will consider another inspection. If it is behaving, let's have a less effective inspection. Less, like instead of doing a full scan of a vessel, let's do a 50% scan. If it still is good and IW is good, so let's continue. So, and then as time goes, you'll notice that, okay, after 20 years of service, you don't need to open a solid duplex stainless steel, even if there are levels of chloride, because you know that how it is behaving in that service, and you know that you're controlling your parameters as well. So no point of doing extra inspections.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, man. Uh,
No problem.
so yeah, I think that makes sense. I think it will be back again to the risk assessment for this system. Okay. So we have the last question. I think it will be related also with your new master degree. Yeah, I've been involved also like in one of the operator that it has like a data from the monitoring inspection from 2012, something like that. Like already like 8 years or more than that, the inspection data. So yeah, the IOW is like the written procedure is like only half done, and then the other task is how to implement it. And as you mentioned before, also like is need like the management, what's it, like the understanding that the integrity is also the same with the safety and quality. And yeah, so with that, did in the, yeah, I can see that like the data that I have some from the operator, that we saw some execution in the monitoring data, and then also can be shown also in the like in the online system, which I think some of the operator that they can see like online monitoring data, temperature and everything. So can you share what will be the step to integrate this IOW into the operating system like SCADA, and then also how we can harvest this information for our integrity?
Yeah. No, thank you for the question. So yeah, that's very, very important, as you mentioned. Uh, that okay, we have done all of this work. We have identified IOWs and registered them. We have done a risk assessment. Everything is in place. But how do we make sure that it is working? How do we involve people more actively? Because people tend to just lay back and say, okay, that there is a system in place, so we don't need to do as much as work that is expected. So yeah, and then they just like go back and collect data when it's close to an annual review or so on. Or they just do firefighting. That okay, something happened. Let's go and take data and see what's happening, a failure analysis or stuff like this. But this is like more being asking people to be more active, and for that we need a tool. We cannot rely on the memory of people, or having an Excel sheet or paper somewhere that just the product chemist lead knows about that, or the corrosion engineer knows about that. So this should be as a daily day-to-day basis of the integrity team or maintenance team work. They should receive alerts, alarms all the time. The corrosion engineer should see the dashboard and should see the trends, the data trends all the time, and based on that to decide about what to do with that. And one of the things that we study in the course that I'm doing, it was on the other day, the lecturer was telling us that the data, uh, the brain of the human, they process the data much better when they are visualized, so that the brain cells, our brain cells, they can identify uh, the issues in the data when they are visualized. So if imagine that you have a list of uh, chloride levels in a table, and you just have a look on them, and there are hundreds of them, and you don't uh, get a very good conclusion from that. Okay, where we are going up, where it is in the limit, where it is not. But when you visualize that in a graph, in a diagram, in a different types of diagrams, trend them, uh, the, your human eye, your human brain self, uh, they identify, okay, something is happening at this point. It's still not breaching, but it is going somewhere, or at that specific period of time, it was 10, it was about to reach to a peak, but then it changed. So the data visualization is very important. It's not very easy to be done by an Excel sheet, or uh, just relying on a product chemist to do them, because uh, sometimes they think that if they visualize data, process data is just they are doing a favor, but it's not that. Nowadays, with all of these data, we cannot have tables and Excel sheets because nobody is there. Nobody can process those data. Nobody can interpret the data which is in the hundreds and thousands of rows of data. They should be visualized and they should be analyzed and reported properly to the management to take actions. So I would say, yeah, so we need a system. We need a system to enter all of this data, and the system give you a trend, and properly we have like lower or higher limits of the uh, uh, limits in the standard, in the critical levels, and so on. And I know this is not very straightforward, especially with the, as I mentioned, with the manual sampling data, because they are not connected automatically to a system. With analyzers and transmitters, they are already reporting this stuff, and it's just a matter of having a module uh, in that system to process the data and give you like a graph. But for manual data, you have to either link it to your maybe CMMS system. If you are using SAP, for example, you enter those data in a system which is connected to your SCADA or CPMS system. So the data is connected, and people they have one point of reporting. So you don't have your product chemist having your data in their dashboard, Excel sheet dashboard, inspection team reporting in SAP, and then the control system, instrumentation and electrical people, they are reporting in your whatever system that you have for the instrumentation data. So there should be one point of contact, and it should be easy for people to enter data, because if it is difficult, if they have to send an email every day with the data, people tend to forget, and then a lot of valuable data will be missed between the lines. So that's an important, again, that's a commitment from the management to have this system in place and find a way to collect all of these data to the one point of process. And on top of that, as I said, the dashboard is very important. I would say, like with the project that I was working last year, we spent 2-3 months to prepare a register, IOW register, and we spent 8 months to implement in the system, because the it's every single IOW needs a way to go to the system and to be analyzed, and then at the end of the day end up in a dashboard. And it's the control team, they tend to have data from pumps, for example, compressors, easily, because they are one type of data is coming, like vibration data is just one type of data, but it's coming from pump, compressor, and a lot of different location, and they know how to process that. But we are talking about like 50, 60 different types of parameters: pH, chloride, CO2 level, temperature, and each of them is related to a damage mechanism and a person, different person to control that. So it's very, very complicated system when you look at it overall. Uh, and it's not very easy, I have to say, it's not very easy to bring all of this together and report in one direction to one system. It needs conversion, it needs interpretations, and it needs streamlining of different data to one route. And the dashboard at the end is important, because the management, they don't have time to go and check the 50 different graphs. They just opens the first page or the first screen, and they want to see all the alarms in one screen. Yeah. So it's very important to bring all the alarms to the front screen, and then it's important to have a link between that alarm back to the root of the breach of IOW. So when you see alarm, click on that. You see that's a corrosion loop or a piping group or a vessel is affected. Which one is that? Where that has been initiated, and what has been the history? Did it happen overnight, or there was a trend that's showing that this is going to breach at some point? No. This part, this question, it could we could like spend 2-3 hours discussing about that, and it's still, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's very true, man. That's I think Richard and me also has the same experience. Yeah, we have like the monitoring data in the spreadsheet, and then this even not everybody know where is the file location. It's only like Korosi
exactly,
engineer who use that data regularly, know where is the location of that file, and then how we know how to use that one, how to utilize that information.
yeah,
Yeah, I think you explained really well about the future of the integrity database and management system, where um, really we need a tool, so the powerful tool to integrate all the resource and give feedback in the dashboard form that user friendly and really pragmatic,
yeah,
and that's and we know together that that is easy to say but very long tedious work in order
hmm,
to implement that, but that's worth to do because that will just at the end of the day will help us to determine our integrity of our plan.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And that tool, I would say, you remember the phase that uh, every company were they were developing an RBI software or tool. So
Yeah.
maybe like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, there were only two or three RBI software, uh, and there was a lot of Excel sheets. But now we have like, I would say, dozens of huge software and maybe hundreds of uh, like small companies having their own RBI software. And this is what's happening for IW now as well. I can see that people are adding an IW module to their existing software, or some people are just creating IW tools and software. But uh, we need to make sure when we are going to have one of these software applied, implemented in our system, we need to um, be careful of if this is just a dumping area for your data, or is it actually a powerful tool to process data. So I wouldn't be, uh, I wouldn't go for a software called IOW tool just because it's called IOW. Uh, because they are probably are trying to cover that uh, gap in the market with calling the tool IW. I would go for a powerful data analysis tool, uh, which any powerful data analysis tool, analyzing tool, they have the capacity of controlling IW, because you don't want it to have a tool which is just uh, collecting and analyzing your IOWs. You want a tool to collect everything and has the power and the capability of the different types of analysis, uh, different kind of visualization, uh, and different features for reporting. And then you can add your IOWs to that as well. So it's better to invest for a powerful data management tool rather than just something that somebody has created as IOW tool, just a hint, a hint.
Yeah. that that will be another session to talk maybe how to implement um, very good
Yeah,
inspection database management system.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we don't want to work bit by bit. It just
yeah,
makes the confusion. All source of integrity must be come from only one source of
yeah,
truth. Yeah, not one stick it by another, stick it by another, stick it
yeah.
by another.
That's true. That's true.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. It's
Thank you for having me.
60 minutes already fly. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to our listener, and thank you very much for human. So good luck with the work,
Thank
and
you.
also to our listener and our viewer. If you enjoy this video, this podcast, please be sure to watching, to listen. Of course, the most important thing is to subscribe and share with the link that we're gonna post in our Spotify channel and also in YouTube link. I hope that you find this video and this podcast are useful in support you in your professional engineering work day to day. If you have question or feedback, let us know. You can send email us at nes@nesindonesia.org or our personal email, rmbasarymtu.edu, and Sina's email, mssulaiman@gmail.com. We're going to post our email in our link, YouTube and Spotify, Spotify link, and we would love to hear feedback from you, or what episode or what is the things that you want to hear next. And eventually, thank you very much. Wish you all the best. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you very
man.
much.
No,
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you,
oh,
Farijat.
yeah.
Have a good day.
Yep, you too.
Stop recording.